The Evolutionary Biology Iceberg explained. If you don't know what an iceberg video is, then search it up next time. Be cheer. Anyways, let's dive in. Level 1, the X-Men. The X-Men are a fictitious group of super mutants. They include people like Wolverine, and why is it in here? Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is the first of the Jurassic franchise of movies which deal with a park that has dinosaurs, supposedly by sequestering DNA from mosquitoes in amber. Pokémon. Pokémon is a franchise of media that deals with a fantasy world with creatures known as Pokémon. Pokémon seem to take the niche of animals. They are collected via red and white Pokeballs and are used in gladiator-style fights. Level 2, Darwin's Finches. Darwin's finches are a group of related species of birds found throughout the Galapagos Islands off Ecuador. They are not true finches, and are fairly split off from true finches. They are important since differentiation by niche in the beaks of these related species were helpful in formulating Darwin's evolutionary theory. Survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest is a concept that, in nature, only the fittest for niche can survive to pass down their genes. The first use of this phrase is in the 1864 in the book Principles of Biology by Herbert Spencer. The term would quickly garner prominence, even being favored by Darwin himself. Adaptation. Adaptation is the process of a population changing over generations to become better suited for an environment, as better fitness is selected, causing said population to evolve to pass on their genes. It is related to our next entry. Extinction. Extinction is when a taxon ceases to exist, as no living members remain. It goes hand in hand with evolution, a result of adaptation. Ultimately, every taxon, and eventually life, must go extinct. The rate of extinction varies over time. The lower, normal extinction rate, known as the background rate, when a large amount of extinctions occur in a, relatively, evolutionary, short period of time. It is known as an extinction event. The Scopes monkey trial. The Scopes trial, or Scopes monkey trial, formerly, the state of Tennessee v. John Thomas Scopes, was a trial in the small town of Dayton, Tennessee, USA, involving a high school teacher named John Scopes, who allegedly violated the state's Butler Act, which barred teaching of human evolution. According to Wikipedia, Scopes wasn't sure he had broken the law, but joined to give the case a defendant. Punnett squares. A Punnett square is a square drawn to represent two alleles. Alleles decide certain characteristics and come in two different types: a dominant, which is represented by a capital form of the letter used, and is expressed more commonly, and a recessive, which is less likely to be expressed, a lowercase form of the letter is used instead. Walking with Dinosaurs. Walking with Dinosaurs is a 1999 nature documentary with 6 episodes depicting dinosaurs from different time periods in the Mesozoic era, from the first dinosaurs of the late Triassic till the last of the latest Cretaceous period when they go extinct due to an asteroid. This documentary is considered revolutionary by some as it depicted dinosaurs as normal animals rather than as monsters as in other media. Level 3. The Wallace Line. Wallace's line is a biogeographical line drawn by Alfred R. Wallace in 1859 and named by T. H. Huxley. It is in Indonesia and shows a different Asian-like biota and an Australian-like biota. This is because these two regions have not been connected for a long time and thus little faunal interchange occurred. Peppered moths. Peppered moths are a species of moth. Naturally, the white population greatly outnumber the black-colored population as they can camouflage better in birch trees. During the Industrial Revolution, the birch trees would darken from the ash, allowing the blacks to camouflage better, giving a reproductive advantage until regulations caused less ash to come to birch trees, returning the whites an advantage. Island dwarfism, gigantism. These are two contrasting concepts in insular biology. The first concept, island dwarfism, is when island species are smaller than mainland ones due to fewer resources. Insular gigantism is when island species are larger due to a lack of competition and predation compared to the mainland. Darwin's pigeons. Darwin's pigeons is a name for a theory developed by Charles Darwin that argues that all breeds of the domestic pigeon, which were 150, at the time, 1,000 today according to Wikipedia, descended from the rock dove, also known as the rock pigeon. Birds are dinosaurs. Birds are descendants of feathered theropod dinosaurs, making them the last dinosaurs alive, as non-avian dinosaurs are extinct. D. melanogaster. Drosophila melanogaster. The fruit fly is a species of fly in the family Drosophilidae, and is a model organism according to Wikipedia. 6 Nobel Prizes have been handed out to drosophilists which study this species. Multi-allele traits. Multi-allele traits are traits with multiple alleles. The majority of traits have multiple alleles. An example are blood types such as O, B, or AB. There are special multi-allele Punnett squares for these traits. Sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is the most common form of sickle cell disease, which is inherited and caused by a dysfunction in the oxygen-carrying hemoglobin protein red blood cells, a sickle shape. Selfish genes. Selfish genes is a concept in genetics that genes ensure their survival at the expense of others. The concept comes from the 1976 book known for coining the word meme, sympatric versus allopatric. Sympatric speciation is when a species evolves from an ancestral stock that continues to inhabit the area, while allopatric speciation results from a population having no access to the ancestral stock and thus evolve differently, resulting in speciation. It is related to our next entry, reproductive isolation, which is when a population is isolated, does not procreate with other members of its species, thus causing diverging paths of evolution and speciation. Adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiation is the process of rapid speciation from an ancestral stock into many new forms. This can occur for many reasons, such as after an extinction cause new niches, or entering a new habitat with new niches. Convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is when two unrelated taxa evolve similar morphology to fill the same niche, such as the Mesozoic ichthyosaurs and Cenozoic dolphins pictured above. Synapomorphies. Synapomorphies are anapomorphy, which is an ancestral trait that is retained. Synapomorphies are traits found in two or more taxa that come from a common ancestor. An example of a synapomorphy are hard-shelled eggs, which are found in all non-amphibian tetrapods except mammals. Level 3. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. The Hardy-Weinberg principle states that alleles frequency does not change in absence of other evolutionary factors such as natural selection originating hitchhiking. Epigenetics support Lamarck. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck was a pre-Darwin French biologist who came up with the Lamarckian theory of evolution, which states that animals change their behavior in response to the environment, thus changing their organs to become perfect for their environment. Epigenetics is a recent field of biology that studies how an organism's behavior and environment shape its offspring. Epigenetics arguably supports side-blotched lizard mating. Side-blotched lizards show a form of game theory where males are selected by females by their throat color, such as blue, which are hyperterritorial, green, which invade, and yellow, which sneak into others' nests. Species continuum. A species continuum is a concept that speciation is a constant never-ending process. It has gained acceptance over the last few decades. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. This is a concept in biology, embryology, that ontogeny, life cycle development, shows ancestral features that might not be found in adult forms, shedding light on its phylogeny, relations to other taxa. An example is the tail found in human embryos, which comes from fish. This concept is related to synapomorphies. Multi-gene traits. Multiple gene traits, or polygene traits, are traits that are controlled by multiple genes. These traits include hair, eye color, and skin color. Spandrels of San Marco. This is an analogy used in a 1979 paper by paleontologists Stephen Jay Gould and Richard Lee Wanton, arguing against the prevalent at the time adaptationist school by using the analogy of the beautiful spandrels of St. Mark's Basilica not as intentional but as an obstacle to be overcome. Phyletic gradualism versus punctuated equilibrium. These are two concepts in biology. The first states that speciation occurs slowly and smoothly throughout time, while the other states that most diversification occurs in rapid bursts, usually after a mass extinction followed by relatively slow change. C. elegans. Caenorhabditis elegans, formerly Rhabditides elegans, is a species of nematode worm and a model organism used in many experiments. 2 Nobel Prizes have been handed out due to work on it since it started in 1974. Kin selection. Kin selection is a concept where organisms are naturally selected for features even at expense for procreation and survival. It can lead to altruism. Genetic drift. Genetic drift is the concept of the reproductive separation of two populations of a species, and how their evolutionary paths diverge, which causes speciation. Biomechanics. Biomechanics is the study of how forces acting on and generated from the body affect the organism's body and health. Holotypes define species. A holotype is a specific specimen that is used to define a newly discovered and described species. These specimens can be referred to as type specimens. Level 5. Iterated prisoner's dilemma. An iterated prisoner's dilemma is a variant of the prisoner's dilemma. A prisoner's dilemma is a dilemma where individuals receive the greatest payoffs if they betray the group rather than cooperate. If games are repeated, it is possible for each player to devise a strategy that rewards cooperation. An iterated version is where players get to see others' behavior. Mammalian nocturnal bottleneck. This is a theory that since mammals were nocturnal for most of their history, this has had a profound effect on their evolution. Adaptations include enlarged corneas and circadian rhythms. Even today many mammals are nocturnal. Red Queen hypothesis. The Red Queen hypothesis is a theory that taxa must constantly evolve in a never-ending arms race to not go extinct. It is used to explain the constant age probability of extinction and why larger taxa seem to have higher extinction rates. It comes from a sequel to Alice in Wonderland. Paraphyletic reptilia. Reptiles are not a monophyletic group, as both mammals and birds, through dinosaurs, originate from reptiles. Eugenics impossible. The human grasp of genetics is too basic for eugenics, I guess. Panspermia. Panspermia is a concept that life could and may have originated via extraterrestrial means, perhaps via dust or comets. It was proposed by the 5th century BCE philosopher Anaxagoras. Living things can evolve into dead things if they increase fitness. I'm sorry, but I don't really understand this entry. Haplodiploidy begets asociality. Haplodiploidy is one haploid, one chromosome. Males hatch from unfertilized eggs, and females hatch from fertilized diploid, 2 chromosome eggs. Since relatedness is increased, there is an evolutionary advantage to take care of relatives' offspring, thus causing asociality. Cultural bias in evolutionary theory. Sorry, but I guess cultural bias affects views of evolution. Darwin was kind of racist and there is eugenics. Raven paradox. The Raven paradox is a paradox that can be explained by the analogy of, if all ravens are black, then if something isn't black, it isn't a raven. Level 6. Paleozoic sentience. Paleozoic sentience is a concept that animals from the Paleozoic era could have had human-like sentience and could have had human-like civilizations. It is loosely related to the Silurian hypothesis from Doctor Who. Evolutionary telos. The evolutionary telos is the ultimate end goal for evolution in a teleological perspective where there is an objective for evolution. The biologist J.B.S. Haldane observed that teleology is like a mistress to a biologist. He cannot live without her, but he's unwilling to be seen with her in public. Goethe's forms. Johann Goethe described the Urflens as the machine of metamorphosis capable of producing many wonders. Cephalopods reset molecular clocks. Sorry, but I don't know, unfortunately. Humboldt invented nature. Alexander von Humboldt was a Prussian explorer who combined various aspects of science to form a theory of nature. Dogs domesticated humans. While traditionally viewed that dogs were domesticated by humans, it can be argued that dogs domesticated people as they came to people and served them, gaining their trust and thus domesticating humans. Silicon-based life. Silicon-based life is life that is based upon the element silicon rather than carbon, as on Earth. Silicon is an element that is inert at moderate temperature by Earth life standards. This element comes below carbon in the periodic table of elements. Because of temperature constraints, silicon-based life, if they exist, would have to be in high temperatures. It could be the second most common type of life in the universe. And that brings us to the end of the iceberg. If you enjoyed this, which is very surprising, please give me a like if you like it, or I enslave your mother.